Have you ever set massive goals for yourself and then just wondered what you were supposed to do next? Well, in today's video, we are going to answer that question with exactly where to start. What's going on, everyone? My name is Jonathan, host of The Jono Show. I am so excited about today's video. Today's video is going to be part one of a 52-part journey where we are going to unpack 52 different books. I'm going to read each one of these books, and then I'm going to provide a YouTube review of these and some of my takeaways and reflections. And we might even make some video content off of some of these books because there is so much value here. In the last couple years, I've been reading about 100 books a year. I've read through so many books, so many authors on sales, mindset, marketing, every single topic you can imagine. And so I'm so excited to share some of those. I'm gonna go through some of my favorites, absolute favorite books here, and then do this YouTube review so that you can get value from them as well, and maybe pick up a copy. The other thing that I'd love to do is interview some of these authors. So if you know the author, if you are the author and you end up listening to this, absolutely please hit me up. I want to get you on this show. I want to talk to you and hear what you were thinking when you were writing this book, hear any other insight, things that maybe you wanted to add, or the reason why you wrote the book. I know a lot of authors do talk about that in their actual book themselves, but I want to have these authors on the podcast, The Jono Show, so let's make that happen as a community. And if you are new to this channel, we talk all about mindset, we talk about tech reviews, we talk about business tips, we talk about entrepreneurship. My whole goal is to help you live a more fulfilled life and make sure that, as you are working on entrepreneurial ventures, that you have some of the tips, the tools, the tactics, the mindset, everything you need to succeed. Now, I've made so many different mistakes in my life and in my 6-year career in business, and I want to use some of those as some lessons to help you maybe learn those, not the hard way, but the easy way from listening to this channel, listening to me talk about it. So without further ado, I want to jump right into this book review of Exactly Where to Start by Phil Jones. This has been a great book. Before we do that, if you haven't subscribed, you need to make sure you hit that subscribe and that like button right away, because that is the #1 way this channel grows. It'll also give you alerts when we drop other videos, and we have some great videos coming up. So please do me a favor, help me grow this channel and hit that subscribe, hit that like button. And if you find something that you really engage with and you want to ask a question or have a dialogue, that is what the comments are for. So hit me up with a comment and we'll make that happen. All right, now time to move on to the book, Exactly Where to Start by Phil M. Jones. This has been a great book and something that I've turned to for a couple years now to basically help give myself the next steps after I start on a project. So there are 10 chapters in this book, and we're just gonna go through them rapid fire. I am not going to read the book to you. That's for you to do, and you can of course find the audio book or pick up a copy yourself on Amazon or wherever. But I wanna go through and kind of briefly describe what Phil Jones is talking about. So often we get to that moment, we're kind of on the cliff where we're wondering, are we gonna jump? Are we going to take the first step? And we don't know what the first step is. We're frozen in indecision. And I know I've been there before, and I know you may have been there before as well. So I want to give us an awesome place to start 2021 off and make sure this is the best year ever. I know so many of us had things that we hoped would happen in 2020, and we ended up just sitting in our houses for most of the year. We ended up having to pivot, change careers. A lot of businesses were destroyed. A lot of businesses were really created and were, fueled by what has happened. And I know with everything that's going on in the United States here and just across the world with COVID and just the way that our world is changing, it is now more important than ever to set goals, go out, invest in yourself, smash those goals, and accomplish something. So anyway, just want to encourage you, really just put in the time, take a day, take a couple hours, write those goals down. I have another video about goal setting and some of the things that I've really used to help me set better goals and to accomplish those goals. So check that out. I'll put a link here in the video as well. Let's jump right into the book. All right, so chapter 1 is all about, you guessed it, getting started. And how should we get started? Well, Phil Jones says that people who are successful feel, think, and act differently. And I believe he says that in the preface or the introduction. And I think that's an important thing to note. As we're looking through our goals, if we feel like we can accomplish them, there's a high likelihood that we will be able to accomplish them. If we feel like it's going to be hard, it's going to be tough, and we may not be able to, that lack of confidence is going to seriously impact our ability to get those things done. And so I just want to encourage you, it starts with how you feel, it starts with how you think, and it starts with how you act. So with that said, he does talk about if-only people who make excuses, and he talks about action beats excuses every time. He comes back to that later in the book. But at the end of the chapter, there's a cool little letter. It is basically a letter, your future self who's accomplished the goals and accomplished the dreams and accomplished the things that you want to do now, and you're writing a letter to yourself of how proud you are to yourself. Doing this and actually handwriting it out puts yourself in that state of actually already achieving that goal, and it helps you understand how it feels. It helps you kind of embody already what it's going to be like when you get to that place, and get you excited and get you motivated and give you somewhere to go back to. Now, it doesn't just give you something emotionally to go back to, but it gives you something physically when you write this letter down. So he's encouraging us to handwrite things and write them down. My big takeaway for this chapter was that it's so important to actually A, write things down, B, take action, but C, we don't really know what success feels like unless we've succeeded a bunch of times. And he makes the point that he's had huge successes and huge failures in his life, and so he knows what the process feels like. And so for so many of us, we need to go out and find mentors and people who have done the process that we're trying to accomplish, and we need to ask them, be humble, go to them and say, hey, look, I need some of your expertise. I need some of your process experience to help me understand the things that I'm going through. So for me, that was a huge takeaway. Chapter 2 is all about stop waiting for permission. And this is so important because as humans, we love the validation. We love feeling like we're accomplished and people are giving us praise. And the problem with this is when we give the power of our goal to the person who's giving us praise, if they don't give us praise, then we're off the path, right? We're not going to continue down that path of trying to achieve that goal if the only thing we're looking for is praise. We need to tie what we want to do into something deeper and more meaningful. And more important than this is we need to feel like a winner. We need to feel like we have accomplished things before and won, and we can accomplish this next thing. We need to give ourselves that momentum. So the thing that he says that we should be doing here is writing down some past wins that we've had to kind of give ourselves a personal history of how much we've accomplished up until this point. And again, I think going into a new year, doing this is extremely important because we've come off such a tough year. So remind yourself of the good ways that you've handled things, right? Don't let your mind self-sabotage. Don't discourage yourself in your mind. Just think about the wins and think about the things that you've accomplished that make you special, that make you different, that make you awesome. All right? Go back to those places. Don't let yourself self-sabotage. Now, chapter 3 is staring down the monster, right? You've got this big, huge goal. You want to open a coffee shop. You want to start a business. You want to, finish college, whatever it is that you want to do. This chapter is all about understanding the details and the specifics of what it's going to take to actually accomplish what you want to accomplish. So ask yourself the question, what will it take to get this done? How do I want to do it? When do I want to do it by, right? Asking some of these specific questions starts, narrowing down what you want to do and, what it's going to take to actually get there. Now, he also talks about understanding how will you feel if you don't accomplish it, right? What happens if you don't do it? So really understanding on both sides, what happens if you do it? What happens if you don't do it? And what are some of the specifics it will take to do it? Now, this leads perfectly into chapter 4, which is here's where you have to really get down to the nitty gritty, right? Phil asks us to start putting things on paper, make it work on paper, start creating guesstimates, start creating these ideas of what it will actually take to get this big goal done. Right? You have this goal of maybe opening a coffee shop. What is it going to take to get that done? Do you have to have some investment capital? Do you need employees? Do you need some resources that maybe you don't have? And he gives us 3 different ways to think about this. He says we can ask others, we can observe others, we can watch them, right? Or we can do our own research and investigate. And asking those questions of what and how and when will really make a huge difference in getting those specifics down that we need to know. Now, chapter 5 is giving yourself a fine reputation to live up to. Now, what does he mean? Giving yourself a reputation to live up to means you actually have to go public with some of these goals. Now, I know there's two schools of thought on this. On one side, we have people who say hustle in silence, let success be your voice. They say don't tell anyone everything and then just show up on the scene. And while I think that viewpoint has a lot of merit, I think you tap into your natural desire to not want to let other people down, to want to succeed, to want to publicly win, and that public acknowledgement that we talked about before, I think it harnesses the power of that when you tell other people, when you make your goals known, when you make them public. I think that it puts your reputation on the line, and it gives you that much more oomph and that much more power that you can't give up. When you encounter those little difficulties, you can't give up. You have got to keep going. You have got to push through because you told people you were gonna get it done, and so you've got to get it done, and you're gonna get it done. Now, of course, you need to tie in other things as well, but harnessing the power of your natural inclination to want to receive praise and want to have people acknowledge you, I think adds a powerful extra edge to goal setting and certainly trying to accomplish something. Now, one of my favorite parts of this chapter was his discussion of levels of success. And that was later on in the chapter, but levels of success I think are really important because, if you say, I want to make $1 million, well, you need to understand you're not gonna make $1 million right away. And so you need to give yourself some other thresholds for success so that you can feel the progress that you're making, so you can feel like you're accomplishing a lot. And so, he talks about level 1, level 2, level 3. Give yourself as many levels as you need and understand, maybe the first step of opening your coffee shop is getting some funding, right? Maybe the first step is a business plan. If you can just make that business plan, you're gonna be a winner in your mind, right? If you can just open the doors and get your first customer, that's gonna be a win, right? If you just can get your 1,000th customer, that's gonna be a win. If you can just make $50,000, right, in net revenue, right? All these different things are different levels of success that we can use as metrics to see our progress, and that is so encouraging. Chapter 6 and Chapter 7 are really important because they talk about the people who are in our circle, the people who are in our lives, who are around us, who are inputting into our lives on a daily basis. And when he talks about building your squad, I think it's very interesting because you will hear people say things like, your network is your net worth, right? I'm sure you've heard that before. And if you haven't, you're gonna hear it more, as you're on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. People make memes about it all the time. And that is true, but at the same time, Phil takes it a little bit of a different direction and says, you need to view the people in your circle like an employer would view his employees. Are you setting people up in your circle for success? Are you asking your mom for financial advice? Are you asking your dad to be your director of operations? Right? Are you asking your drinking buddies to help you make important decisions in the business things that you're working on, right? Sometimes the people in your life, it's not that they're the wrong people in your life, but it's that you have them in the wrong place. And I love this. I think that it's so important to realize that and that it's all on you, right? Take 100% responsibility and realize you can put people in certain places in your life or take them out. And so you have got to evaluate who you have in your squad and make sure that the right people are in the right places. If you don't have the right people in the right places, it's time to do some laundry, like he says. Time to find people that you need in your life and put them in those places, and time to readjust. Make your drinking buddies just your drinking buddies. Have drinks with them. Don't ask them for fitness advice or financial advice or some of those other things. Don't put them in positions where they are not going to be qualified to give you advice on the topics that you're asking advice on. And Chapter 7 is all about making progress and progress over perfection. I think it's so easy to get frozen in fear and wonder, oh my gosh, I'm not doing this right. Oh, this doesn't look like, what I wanted it to look like, what I envisioned it in my head, the destination goal, right? I want to make $1 million or whatever. Oh, I only made $1,000 today. I'm nowhere close. That can be very, very demoralizing. It can totally sabotage your confidence. And a lot of times we as people get frozen in imperfection, right? We want the post to look just right. We want the podcast to look just right, the YouTube video. We need to have the right people in place. We need to have all the right money. We need to have everything laid out. And let me tell you, the right time never comes. And so Phil makes a point in this chapter that the progress that we need to make often comes at the cost of the perfection that we'd like to have. He talks about creating checkpoints rather than tasks. And I think this is important because you can accomplish a checkpoint in a variety of ways, but a task gives you a specific way that you have to carry something out. And so oftentimes, especially if you're a perfectionist, and I know many of you listening are likely perfectionists and, have said to other people, oh, I just can't do that because I'm too much of a perfectionist. You may have said that before. If you say that, you're falling into a very dangerous trap of immovability, of not letting yourself really take the action needed, the imperfect action needed to create the result that you're looking for in your life. So again, create those checkpoints instead of tasks. Those checkpoints you can do a variety of ways. As long as you're reaching the checkpoint, you're still winning. Now, chapter 8 is all about indecision. And we kind of talked about that a little bit with the progress over the perfection, but indecision is really tough. And a lot of times when you're indecisive, you lose the momentum that we're talking about creating here. What we've talked about in the last couple chapters all about is creating this wave of momentum that's going to carry you to each one of these checkpoints, to each one of these success goals. And so eventually you're going to accomplish this big goal and you're not even going to know how you did it, but it's because you hit all of these little milestones that were important to you. And it happened because of the momentum that you created. Indecision will totally steal momentum from you. It said, rest, don't stop. And that is so important. And that's really the point that he's making in this chapter. Take a rest, maybe take a quick break, but stay aligned on your goals and don't lose the momentum that you're building up. Now in chapter 9, he talks about upgrading your operating system. And I think this is so cool because many times we kind of stay static in our growth process, right? We get out of college and we stop learning, or high school and we stop learning. Maybe we go to a trade school or listen to a YouTube channel here and there, but we really don't embark on a lifetime of learning. And I think this is absolutely important. It's essential to basically upgrading yourself, consistently upgrading yourself and evolving into the person that you are supposed to be. And so when we talk about upgrading your system, Phil's talking about consistently challenging yourself to go to the next place in your life. He talks about keeping one foot in the future and, thinking about things in terms of hypotheticals. What is your future self doing? What is the version of yourself doing that is making those decisions and accomplishing things at the high level that you want to get to. So kind of thinking about yourself in terms of that, not losing the momentum we've created that we already talked about, and then kind of doing a complete system and mentality overhaul by going for a jog or taking a break. In those times where you are feeling stuck, take that break, get out of your element, change your environment, and allow that to reset yourself, but continue along that same path that you've created momentum on. Now, chapter 10, the final chapter, and if you're still here, you are amazing, so you should definitely be subscribed at this point. But chapter 10 is all about controlling your controllables. And, so often we are not in control of things in our environment, of our surroundings. When we acknowledge that we're not in control, we can actually have this feeling of calm and peace, and we can focus on the things that we can control. And so his big point here is focus on the things you can control, don't focus on the things that you can't control, and stay focused and locked in pursuing your goals. You can't impact what happens in the White House. You can't impact what happens, environmentally or economically. At least most of us can, right? But when you focus on the things you can control, you focus on your habits, you focus on your process goals and different things that are actually going to create that big win in your life, that's where you can win, that's where you can make a big difference, and that's where you can actually build the confidence that you need to keep accomplishing other goals and to keep making wins in your life and wins for your family and wins, for the other people in your circle. So anyway, thank you so much for listening to this book review. Again, I'm really looking forward to interviewing Phil Jones on the Jono Show podcast. And, thank you so much for listening. Goals are kind of scary and kind of tough to talk about sometimes because there's totally the risk of failure. And I've been there, I've felt it before. And so if you're having any problems setting goals, if you want to reach out to me personally, you can reach me at Jono Amen on Instagram. Of course, here in the comment section, you can reach out to me. You can also check out any of the other links where I am, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever else, but I would love to talk to you. So if you're setting goals, if you're having problems either setting goals, having problems figuring out what you should do, hit me up. Let me know. Let's have a dialogue about it. And I hope you guys succeed. I hope you guys win really, really big in 2021. Thanks for watching. Again, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, because it keeps this channel going. All right, guys, we will see you in the next video. And book number 2 is Gap Selling by Keenan, one of my favorite books. So we'll get to that here in the next video. See you guys.